Can somebody, we are recording. Can somebody let me know if someone tries to get on?
Yep.
If I don't see or hear it. I know Dan said he's coming. He loaned me his key to get in. But he can't stay the whole time, he said. You're just talking how everybody has gotten, or so many people have gotten something over the holidays.
Oh, I'm
form
not
of
talking to
something.
anyone. I've not been sick. I want to keep it that way.
Yeah. That's what Jim says.
You were sick earlier, weren't you, Sean? Nope.
I mean, I have been sick in my life. I wasn't sick really recently.
Oh, okay, I was thinking like early in the fall.
Yeah, and then I was the oddball. I had strep throat and it was really bad.
Oh,
Yeah, I did have that. And it took a while to get to that. Yeah, the doctors were like, "You sure you don't have COVID? You can test me."
Yeah.
I just took it.
Yep. How's your family, Russ? Everyone stay healthy through the holidays?
No, we all got COVID.
stand there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't even, I wasn't even sick. Just when I said been at work, it said, oh, there's a bunch of people at my work that have COVID. So it was like a couple days before the weekend of Christmas. And I was like, I'll just test to see it then. Boom, positive.
Oh, no.
Mid Christmas.
Oh, no.
Aren't getting hospitalized? I've not heard anything.
I wasn't even sick. I worked in my office and I just had to stay away from everybody. So I know everybody else.
Yeah.
We had 2 people in our church hospitalized. One was RSV,
Uh,
but
Really?
the COVID one, he's older. 80.
yeah.
The RSV one, though, she's retired. So
Yeah.
And were people on the planning board, should they have COVID or they're just flu
Well,
or cold?
Bruce had something going on, and he said it was the flu. I don't know if he tested for anything else. But he said he had the flu.
Oh, okay.
I just read today, half people have not gotten a flu shot, 50%,
Yeah.
and 4 out of 5 haven't gotten the latest COVID shot. So
Yeah, I'm sure that's why it's going around. And I was sick too, Lillian.
Oh,
I was the other.
I
Yeah. I had
was afraid you might have because you were traveling.
Yeah, well, I was sick for 2 weeks before we went away. I got better, and then my son got sick, and then when we got back, I got really sick
Oh, no.
for about 4 days, 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Better now.
Oh, good. Those kids always have germs.
I think I gave it to him, to be honest. My doctor said it was okay for me to travel, but it just seemed odd that 2 days after we were together, and I masked,
Mhm.
but we were living in the same house.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy.
And he flew on an airplane too, could have gotten it from.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people get it when they're flying.
Mhm. When I used to fly every 2 weeks, I would pop emergency, the
Mm-hmm. Oh, I used to eat that a lot.
like they were chiclets,
Yes.
just because of the containment on the airplanes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I know Kathy Jolly's coming, and that would give us our quorum.
With Sean. 4.
Oh, we're fine. Wait, we have 9 though, right?
Oh, are you 9? Yeah, this is where you, when you have a big committee.
And I know Dan said he was coming, at least for the first half hour. So we'll have to wait. And Ivy and Carol? I didn't
Carol, I don't believe is coming. I don't know about Ivy. I think she might be away still.
Kathy says she's trying to Zoom.
Um,
There it is. I see her.
We need a quorum in person.
Well, because, yeah, and Ivy is a part of the committee.
Yeah, I was like, I don't wanna be a nag, and I waited till the last minute, so if it's too much for her, it's fine, I can use the, there's Ivy. Use the place where we're staying.
Hey.
Here, we do stuff too, but I didn't know if you guys got perks for doing this. Yeah, so I figured, okay, give you the perks.
How do I switch this so that she is little and we are big?
The view, top right.
Oh, there it is. Uh,
We're going to Key West.
Can you hear me, Kathy?
Have you been there before?
Can't hear you.
It's,
I can.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you hear?
yeah, right. Well, my sister, Liz. Husband's
Make sure
retiring.
that's on. Can you hear us, Kathy?
Yes, I can.
There
Can
you
you
are.
hear me?
Yep, now I can.
Okay.
So let me make sure no one else sent something.
Yeah, we've had that conversation
Nope.
all the time, but
Yes.
winter. Or at least a month or two. We'll see.
I have to say, I just got back.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I just got back from St. Pete Beach and it was pretty nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not as warm as I wanted
Who's our
it to
tour?
be.
Yeah.
It never is.
Where'd
Jane.
you go?
Dan,
St. Pete Beach,
Carol,
but you know,
Dan,
I got in the water
Barbara.
twice. I got to see my
Yeah.
sister.
you,
Yeah. Well, I grew up
Kathy.
down there.
Marie.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Alan
no, I went
Fox.
to high school in
I do
Kansas
this
City and then graduated
Did I
from
miss
high school in
something?
Sarasota. So,
Yeah, you
Your-
could tell.
your family
Right.
was in Dunedin.
So,
oh yeah,
Carter.
at the other end of the Pine Ellen Bikeway.
Yeah.
Kathy. Yeah, now we need 5
I don't
people.
think they bike,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
So we
well,
have, we need 5.
It's there.
Yeah, we have, we need 5 in person.
Well,
We can't count Kathy.
No, no, no.
oh, you're not, oh, that's right, that's right. You're so many, you remember so many things. Christine.
Yay.
You're for quorum.
Yay, thank you.
Here, we'll send you your check later.
Picture key.
Well, actually, I might not be able to stay at the end. We can
I'll bring
wait
it
till
to you
tomorrow.
All right.
I didn't think of that, I could probably.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, you said something about touch base with Carol. She'll be- Enough, do you have keys? Somebody will let me in. All right, let's officially call the meeting to order at 7:05. And we will start off with looking at the minutes from the October 16th meeting. Does anyone have any changes? Or notice any updates that needs to be done on it?
I went through this afternoon after you resent it and I didn't see anything, but
I saw
that was
nothing.
a little while ago.
Alan, Sean wasn't here that night. Nothing? Kathy, nothing?
Nope, nope, we're good.
Okay. Someone like to make a motion to accept the,
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the October 16th meeting.
I'll second.
can she second?
I-
Yeah, okay, all right, just making sure we're copacetic. All right, roll call, Lillian,
Yes. Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Dan,
I wasn't here, I don't.
Yes, you were.
Oh, I was?
Anyway.
The vault,
Yes,
All right, so minutes are now accepted as stated. Thank you, guys. I know it was October 16th. We had to dust our cobwebs off for
I
that one.
was, you're right.
Yes,
Yeah.
you were.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Good thing Russ takes such great notes. Any public comments? No? Okay. Let's move on to old business. Now Carol's not here. I was going to ask everyone though, at the October 16th meeting, we looked at the housing and population analysis and the land use chapters, and we left it that we would review and send any updates directly to Carol. I know we're going back to October 16th, but were there any updates that folks remember? Or did anybody send any? Maybe let's take another look at them.
I would just say the planning board has looked at them since then and sent some revisions to Carol, so maybe you want to ask her for the latest versions.
Latest version.
They were minor revisions, but.
Well, that's probably why. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
All right, new business. Let's start off with reviewing the housing choices in Temple document. This is what was presented at the third of the 3 forums.
Right, and the thing I'd like to remind you is, these are just the slide, this is just the slide deck. I mean, so this is just what I used to do the presentation. If you want this turned into a document that can be shared, I am available to do that.
I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was gonna.
Yeah, because the document said draft, at some point there was a draft report and yeah,
Well-
it did fall short for that.
No, this is just my slide deck.
Yeah,
This was never intended to be a document for you guys. I mean, somebody asked me, could I send you the slide deck?
yeah,
And I did,
Yeah.
but it was never intended to be anything else.
right.
Um,
So what I would say that we probably should have for our public records is a full
Yeah.
detail of each, like September 9th, we had all of those.
Well, we do have, let me go look and see what I
We had all the
Wow.
flip charts
have.
from
Wait,
the 9th.
I'm looking at is, we have a document that I provided on October 2nd, which has the Temple forums.
Yep.
And that one, this is the one at the town hall. Then we did another one at town hall.
September 9th was the elementary school.
Yeah, and we have that.
Well, I think what would be most helpful is to have all of those documents in
In one
document.
place.
Yeah. Can do that.
Yeah,
So what I will do is I will write, I'm doing the same thing for Winchester right this minute. So I'm gonna do a final document that includes all of the public engagement and what everyone said.
Yes, and also if you could include a summary of each of those for the report itself, because I assume all those other things are going to be attachments.
No. I'm not sure what you mean by other things are gonna be
The
attachments.
things that you're writing down now, the summary of this form and that form, those would be attachments. But you
Yeah.
wouldn't have like one sheet that has the summary in the
I'll
final
do an
report.
executive summary
Yes,
at the
that's what I was
beginning.
gonna ask.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it won't be attachments. It'll be one document that says, we started here. These are the things we did. This is what we heard. These are the visuals. And then goes all the way to the end with everything we had. So what I will do is I will take the report from the Temple forums, which we did on October 2nd. And then we have another one where we did the one at the school. I will take all of those things and put them into one document with all of the visuals. So you'll have one document. They will be all of the public engagement that this committee did between whenever we started, which I guess was the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And now.
4th of July, July 11th, September 9th, then
Yeah.
into our
Yeah.
series.
Okay, and it'll have this, it'll flow
Yeah.
smoothly, okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great.
And we'll see the draft of that before it becomes final for public.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
So is it enough time frame to plan on it for our next meeting?
Which is when
2 weeks.
2 weeks from now, it'll be,
maybe I will do my best.
okay. 22nd. Okay. If you get
If I get,
between now and then and not, just let me know. And
but we'll assume that I'll have it done.
okay, okay. So I wanted to talk about the 3 forums that we just most recently did and how people were feeling about those and what you heard, perhaps even outside of them, if you continue conversations with folks that had been present.
I've heard of words mainly, but I haven't been mentioning much either.
I will say that I thought the tone of the conversation by the final one of the most recent series was very different from where we started in July.
I think the last 2 drew a different audience. Obviously, we had the most at the 3rd one, but many of the 3rd were at the 2nd as well.
Yes.
And it was a different crew than what we have, or the different town folks than what we have been seeing.
And as, you know, and this is true, I'm sure for any small town, but we have to be careful because we're dealing with very, very small samples.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I do think that it is true that the feeling in the room was very different at those 3 educational meetings than it was at
Definitely September 9th.
Yeah, September
The
9th.
first one.
Yeah,
Very different than that one.
yeah, and some of them were the same people. I mean, yes, we are dealing with very small samples, but it's also a very small town. So anyway, that's my observation about that.
I was pleased to see some young folks at the last 2, not droves of them, but some of our younger community, and seemed to be quite insightful with their questions as well.
Yeah, and I thought that Heather Hannon's observation that as the code stands now, by and large, most of the town, which is not in conservation, could be subdivided into 3-acre lots with 200 feet of frontage. And that she said, I think we ought to think about some of these other ways of doing housing. And I thought that was a really interesting observation and not one that I would have expected in July.
And yet her background,
She's a planner.
she's the planner, so
Yeah, she's
that lends itself.
Yeah, and
But she loves her rural.
yeah, no,
temple as well.
and absolutely. And I think that what she and other people have come to realize is that your current code is neither fish nor fowl. It neither protects a rural agricultural place, nor does it allow for a village. Doesn't do either of those things. And it restricts the likelihood of any housing except large single family houses on large lots. And I think that one of the things that's come up over the course of this 6 months work is that people are more aware that the code doesn't necessarily do what they want it to do, and it does prevent some things that they might want. And that's a big change from where we started.
Which, so in hindsight, and I think you mentioned this once before, and maybe moving forward, this is what you're already thinking. Starting off with the last 3 events we did.
Yeah, I think if I had to do it over again, I mean, Carol and I've talked about this a lot. I mean, we've been doing this work together for quite a while, and typically we have come in to do a master plan, and the master plan committee is, you know, they wouldn't have hired us if they weren't already thinking about this. The HOP grants are different in the way that people interact with the process. And so a process that worked well for master plan work doesn't necessarily work as well for this. There's not anything we did early on that I think was a mistake. I think I would have done the last 3 things sort of in the middle. Maybe, I don't know. There's pros and cons to both of them. We haven't done, and what we did in Dublin that worked really well was we had small groups of people who did some visual preference work, and that was hugely helpful. That didn't work in Temple very well. You just don't know.
The things we did at the Harvest Festival.
No, the things we did with the cards.
The cards.
And the photographs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are things that have worked well in the past, but for whatever reason, were not as successful here as I would have liked to have seen them.
Question, are you able to get your hands on enough of those cards for those of us that will be doing one-on-one interviews or focus groups?
Oh yeah, I could have
just to loan them. And
yeah, I've got 25 decks, so I can lend you 5 decks.
I just the next phase that we're looking at is our one-on-ones and our small groups.
And I've done some one-on-one. I've done some. One of the things I did in Dublin, there were people who couldn't come to the small groups, and I did that one-on-one with them, and that's a hugely interesting process. I recommend it. I think that would be a good thing to do. I can drop you some off.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I have to sort them because I've been using them so much that I need to lay them all out and make sure all the decks are perfect. It's like playing solitaire with a deck that maybe has 7 aces.
And I think you said there's some that you will pull out because full well.
It depends on what I'm doing with them. For Temple, I gave people the whole deck. And I don't think there's any harm in giving them a whole deck. For one thing, I mean, it gives them some buildings to hate. Which
sometimes it's easier to tell us what you don't want versus
exactly.
what you do. You might not articulate what you do.
Right, exactly. I was at a conference when I was at NECAPA. James Burton, who's a planner, I forget who he's working for now, but it doesn't matter. He was talking about setting up surveys, and he does the same thing in surveys, which I always do, which is I always provide a couple of choices that I know no one wants, so that you can hate that thing, and I can say, I heard that you hate that thing. We're not going to talk about it anymore. Because it means that we're paying attention to what you told us, And there's always a few people who like whatever the thing is that I am predicting people will hate, and sometimes I'm totally wrong. But I've come to the conclusion that giving people the full deck is really the best solution. And then you have them do it quick and dirty. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and then pick they have 5 favorites.
Would it be helpful if we go through that at our next meeting one more time? What do you folks think? I mean,
I'm happy to do that.
Are these different than the Harvest Festival?
Yeah,
photos?
very different.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very different
The
system.
one forum that we did in, one of the forums we did in October,
Two of them.
here in the town hall, I was gone, yeah.
Oh, yeah, two of them.
In the town hall, we had a small turnout, 3 tables, and we used those cards.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As well as some more images, but
Yeah.
we definitely used those cards and it was quite interesting. What we
I-
were hearing folks say.
Yeah,
I think-
Harvest Festival is really.
Yeah, yeah, it's always interesting, always interesting. Yeah, if you would like to do a refresher on the step decks, I can bring some decks with me on the 22nd and we can do that and then you can keep them until,
Okay. And then folks can use them either with their small groups or
let me
one-on-ones.
check. I am doing a thing where I'm gonna need decks, but I think it's before that. It's either the 13th or the 20th, so in any case, it'll be before that.
Speaking of the Harvest Festival, when you do your full documentation of all of our events, will those be listed out with what got the most greens
Yeah.
and reds?
Yeah.
Perfect. Anybody else on that topic? Comments, questions? Anything else you want to see in the document?
There are some questions that I had, for instance, in the document on slide 7.
Oh, this is just the slide deck.
Yes, that's what you sent. us,
Yeah.
yes.
Hang on. Oh, look. We'll take it. around, so.
What's on that slide?
There is mention of the income for the town. And there was comment about poor people, a family of 3 who are considered poor level, have 20,000 in income a year, but then later on in that same paragraph, it says 31,000. So I was just confused.
Okay, because 100%, the poverty line of approximately $20,000 for a family of 3, that's the poverty level. 150, if you are making 150% of the poverty level, that translates, so that would be half of that again. That would get you about $31,000 for the work. And those, if you're making 150% of the poverty level, that's collectively known as the working poor. So those are 2 separate things.
Okay, I might ask you to break those out so that it's a little clearer, because there is going to be some people who are not really familiar with this information, who are
Sure.
going to be reading the report. And I think one of our goals is to have this report as clear as possible.
Sure.
For folks who are not familiar with the
All
information.
right, I will make.
And I was
Here.
going to say, and assuming they've not participated in anything that we've been trying
Oh,
to
yeah,
do,
yeah,
because
we would
yes.
as we get closer to
Yeah.
the end and closer to making recommendations or wherever we land, I imagine we'll hear from a whole lot
You never asked us.
more folks.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's a chart that Carol has.
yes, there is. I just made a note to a fuller explanation there. I mean, as I said, these are really my notes for talking extemporaneously. And not intended to be.
Yeah.
Wildly explanatory.
And while we're on the topic of the presentation, if I could, on the following slide where you talk about the median house price in
Mhm.
Temple, if you could also include for comparison other house prices in other Monadnock towns,
Sure, sure.
and then also the average for New Hampshire.
The average for, the median for New Hampshire is actually 451 right this minute. Just
But it would be,
coincidentally.
yeah,
no, no,
but it'll be good to include that.
Yep. Here, state medians.
Is that?
It's the mini split.
The mechanical.
Oh,
I think it's all.
And I think there, and I'm sure you'll go through this in your report, when you're talking about certain sessions, how many people attended,
Yeah.
all of that. And then also, let me see here. There are some in the slide deck anyway, there are certain things that I think that did need explanation. So I'm sure you'll be going through that in the report. For instance, slide 11.
Yeah.
You know, what does this represent?
Yeah.
Because someone who's not
Yeah,
familiar
oh,
is
no,
not
no,
gonna.
of course.
Did you send, has everyone got that email, right?
That was in with the agenda.
Yeah, it's called Temple Now What, and it's just a slide deck.
It was last Thursday.
Yeah, on slide 13, you say survey results, what you value. It doesn't indicate what survey that came from, any of that.
Yeah.
I think when you talk about terms like ADUs, if you could give a definition.
Sure.
Assuming that folks haven't been with us.
Right, right.
I'm
Yeah,
making, hang on, Lillian. I'm
I
making
mean,
now.
you could be a two-bedroom.
But there are other, yeah, there are a lot of definitions that are included in that. And so I think everyone needs to know exactly what an ADU is.
I think,
And also what a detached ADU is.
and I think what may be helpful is in the definition of that, if we place our current
Yep.
code,
We could do that.
what is allowed, what you have to have a detached ADU. Pardon?
I'm curious, what are you gonna use this document for?
What am I gonna use it
No,
for?
what are they, like, why are they asking? Cause it's getting to be a lot of work and really long, so I'm just curious what the goal is. If you want something people are gonna read, this is a lot for people to digest.
My focus was a thorough report of all that has been done
By the
And
steering committee.
by the steering committee. When,
For the steering committee.
for the steering committee or for anyone that says, I've never heard anything
Yeah.
about this, right?
Right, well, yeah,
Um,
I guess the reason I'm asking is, I haven't heard from many committee members what your impressions were of the event, so it's gonna be what Ivy's impressions were when she's putting in the result
See what the,
of the,
the people's responses.
right, but it's how Ivy heard it, cause I haven't heard anybody else say how they heard it. And also, I was just
But
wondering,
that,
like,
does that mean that the report should not include anything in terms of I mean, do the steering committee members have a say in what the report says, or is it?
Well, that's what I'm
strictly
asking, I
consulting?
guess that's what I'm asking, are you anticipating that you're gonna react to what she's writing? Or are you gonna be contributing to what she's writing?
Essentially, I'm consolidating every report that I've sent in. And what
Okay.
I do in those reports is I say, this is what people said. This is what people picked.
Yeah,
I don't say what I think it means.
okay.
And we
Okay, so you won't be making any recommendations at the end
Not,
either.
not, I probably will have some recommendations at the end because that's my job. But the body of the report is, these are the things we've heard. These are the events we held. This is what we did at the events. This is what the people said at those events. And then at the end, you know, the general consent, the consolidation of everything we heard suggests that these are places that people might be willing to think about housing choice.
Right,
But
and so
that's
that's
the
for the
only-
committee to look at and say what they're.
Right.
So we
to-
can
to-
make-
Yeah.
Already have the choice to make on.
Right,
Yeah, I mean, oh, sorry, Danny.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you what I heard.
okay,
And then at the end, I can't imagine that it would not be useful for me to say, based on what I heard and what you saw and what we see in this report, here are 4 things or 5 things or 2 things that you might want to think about going forward.
And
Right.
we have debriefed after everyone, with the exception of this last chunk of 3. at each of the meetings, so if that information was captured. I also know that, Danny collected, a full sheet
Yep.
at, a potluck, which I typed up, and that, you have that.
This report is closing the barn door, though, because there's already motion.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what
And
I'm getting
so
to.
this is, like you said, right, how much detail do we need? Sorry.
Well, I think it's not closed. I think that's my point. It's because you're still doing interviews in small focus groups.
Correct.
So whatever, for this, yes, but more is gonna be added to it. So
Right.
I guess that's, yeah.
I think Dan saying, but
There's already
this report, is, what's in this report has been done, so.
I'd like to close out 2023,
Okay.
right? So
Right.
this is what we did in 2023. And now in 2024, we're starting small groups and one-on-ones.
Yeah.
So I'd
get
like
to-
to see the end of, was my thinking.
And this document will be something that the planning board and this group can look at and say, okay, what do we want to do at town meeting in 2025?
It's gonna be, yeah, it won't be this year.
Well,
Exactly.
I'm well aware.
Yeah,
This year's already pretty big. It's pretty big,
Yeah.
More articles.
No, not really.
Detached ADUs, that's big, that's big.
Who's doing that?
Isn't Article 5 detached ADUs by right?
No, we already have that. No, we have detached ADUs by special exception. There's no change,
Yeah, but I thought it was by right coming up if it passes.
only if you have double the acreage. But you can still.
Oh, it's not 3.
There's no change to our existing zoning for detached ADUs. It's just putting it in a chart. All we do is
Just
put
chart
it in a
format.
chart. Just
Yeah,
format.
alright. That's where I'm coming from, because I thought, oh, this will.
No, we didn't change anything.
No,
We just put it in a chart.
All right.
just to make it easier to see it in one place.
I didn't count. Shoot, we already like.
And we can talk about.
And I have, okay.
We're good.
Real. We can talk.
Okay, just so I'm.
We still have work to do, Danny. So does that, I mean, my thought was closing out 2023
Okay,
and having that documentation done as part of our public
as
record.
long as it, like, there's gonna be more added to it after your focus groups and one-on-ones and things. But yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of work, and I was just wondering what the goal was out of the document that.
And primarily, I'm gonna amalgamate the work I've already done.
Okay,
Yeah, it's already quite useful. when
yeah,
Thank you.
100%.
We try to make it useful.
Well, and every steering committee member hasn't been at every event.
right.
So, I mean, it's. Yeah, no, I was just, here's your star, no. Perfect attendance. No, I just meant. Because not all of us have heard everything from each event.
Oh,
I know
right,
I
right,
missed
yeah,
one.
yeah. Yeah,
So, yeah, but I think it would be helpful to have it all in one place.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Does that make sense?
I think it makes good sense.
Okay.
I mean,
I didn't mean to.
say what?
Sorry, I didn't mean to get you all off.
No, that's all right.
Oh, it's a fair question. I mean, what's the
Yeah.
purpose of the document? I mean, that's actually a helpful question to ask. Who's
Yeah.
this for?
Before you put time and effort into it, you want to know why.
It sounds to me like primarily the audience is the planning board and this housing committee and anybody else who's interested. But
Right.
it's
Right.
primarily a document for you.
And
But,
for us to
but
take
to that point, I think we need to consider that it could be anyone in town who wants to read it.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
any acronym that's used should have some kind of definition.
Of course.
I just want to clarify, if this is a report that's going to finish out 2023, but yet in 2024, we're continuing this same stream. It's not like it's separate information in any sense. Is the final report at the end of this grant then just going to be one file, and Ivy will simply bring all the new information into this existing one?
That's
Yes,
my plan.
yeah,
Okay,
I
But-
think that's the simplest way to handle it. So the
yeah,
next-
'cause- right.
Yeah.
So we only have one place to look for input. We don't have to look in two different documents.
right.
It's always my goal to only have one document. Because as my husband says, if it's in two places, it's wrong.
Okay. Anything else, any insights, comments on our current topic of conversation? Anything anybody else would like to see, make sure it's good?
Maybe just that the fact that the demographic predictions are, you know, a lot of people have doubts about that, especially with the immigration. Demographics way off as far as the ages and whatever. I know a ton of young families, especially someone who just moved here, young 20-year-olds who bought a $500,000 house. So that does happen. $700,000 houses.
Um,
20-year-olds with children. And there's too.
The American Community Survey comes out every 5 years. Maybe, is it more often than that? No, I think it's 5 years. So we'll be able to check in a year.
Because especially, I mean, with the auto stuff there.
Yeah, we only have the data we have. I mean, and yeah, it's always problematic. It's always problematic in small towns. It's never perfect. I mean, we take it for what it is. So, but as I say, the 2025 American Community Survey will be a chance to check those, see how far, how right or wrong we were.
Good question. Anything else? Okay, then, our small group forums and one-on-one interviews. We have the documentation that Ivy sent us as far as questions that you can ask during these one-on-one interviews. Let me start with the one-on-one interviews. I'm gonna flip-flop. We have that document from previously. I can resend it. It was called Public Engagement Plan for Temple. And it was on the bottom of the first page where it talked about the one-on-one interviews that we have folks signed up for already, as well as anyone that you come in contact with in your daily activities, and as well as using those card decks once we get those in then at the next meeting. Does anybody have any questions on the one-on-one interview portion? And just, I think my point is to document unbiasedly as whatever it is that you, even if it means asking if you can record them, so that you're able to come back and either type it up or write it up.
Most of the recording things will produce a transcript for you now.
Do we have people that have signed up?
Yep, we've been keeping that list right here. I know, so there's one on here that wants to talk with Kathy. I have 4 at the top that had asked me, and then we've had 4 more sign up. But so these are just the ones that have signed up at previous events, which tells us that we need to reach out ourselves and engage the folks within the community. If anybody wants to see those other ones on the bottom, if you know them or want to do their interviews. But I think it also, like I said, it also means that, we figure out who it is we see on a daily basis or on a weekly basis and have conversations with, see if they'll have conversations with us.
Are you going to have the interviewers solo or two interviewers? At a time? I'm just thinking because people have different ideas that spring on. It just occurred to me that, you know, one, yeah, but maybe.
Our idea had been that we each go out and have conversations where we're planted, where we're at, and
I was just
have
curious.
been our thought.
Typically, they're one-on-one.
But we will be having focus groups, which are
Yeah.
small groups,
Wondering.
where folks can be playing off of each other, that we'll talk about in a minute.
It'll be helpful to resend that document.
I'll resend it.
Yeah.
I think it was in, October.
October 16th, public engagement.
Yep.
Do you need me to send it to you again?
Nope, I've got it.
Real.
Ivy would like to.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. It's my. I'm just curious as to who's talking about.
So if we get feedback from these individuals, how do we weight what they say versus all the?
You just say what they said. It's all one, I mean, and everybody is an individual. I mean, everything that we've done has been what individuals said. I mean, even if you think about the group exercises, it's the cumulativeness of those individual responses. If you think about the card exercise, you know, we looked at what each individual said, and then we added them up and, you know, we got a cumulative. So it's just like that.
Okay, so it's just gonna count like one of the other dots.
Yeah, it's like a dot.
Yep.
It's like a dot.
Exactly.
And I have a document, I just realized, there's an organization called Community Heart and Soul, which is funded by the Wharton Foundation, and they do a lot of public engagement, and they do a lot of interviews, and I've got their interview form. I heard the person from Community Heart and Soul speaking this fall, and I'll find it and scan it, send it to you. And one of the things that I find helpful when I'm doing work like this, is to look for commonalities, look for things that you would make a hashtag out of. For example, I'm doing a survey right now with a town, and it has it has a spot where you can say whatever you want. And so I go through and I read those and I tag them with, you know, I've got, I think, 10 tags, and I tag them with the things that they're talking about so that it's easy to find the ones that are talking about the same thing. I don't think we're going to have that. I mean, that's the survey that's got 500 responses. I don't think we're going to have that issue, but it's helpful to think about, you know, what are the themes. And so, and the Community Heart and Soul, their form suggests ways to do that. So I'll get that to you guys, because I think it's really useful.
I did that for the charrette report. I went through all the comments that were done at the
Yeah,
different tables and
tag
great,
them.
yeah.
Tag them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Well, it is, because then it gives you some sense of what were the main topics.
Exactly.
How many people commented on those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, for the one I'm doing, I mean, you know, I've got NIMBYs and YIMBYs and traffic and you know, school overcrowding, not enough kids in the school, so that I can sort it by all those things.
Yeah.
And see how many times that came up. Taxes comes up. Texas is the winner in that particular survey.
Okay. Anything else on one-on-one interviews?
Do you have a target list of people, or are there people that you want to talk to outside of the people that have signed up?
So I think compared to the focus groups where we're going to make a concerted effort of, you know, pulling business people or homeschoolers or whatever it might be. Up until this point, and tell me your thoughts, our one-on-ones were going to be anyone we come across. Do you have recommendations?
No, I guess I'll wait and see what your focus groups are.
I think it might be
That's our next
helpful
topic.
in our next meeting to hone in on that. Say, okay, who are we gonna invite to focus groups? Who are we gonna invite to the one-on-ones and be very specific?
It's who are we missing?
Who's not,
Right.
always, that's always the question, who's not.
Yeah. And that way we get a better sense of who we might need to reach out to.
So if we move on to the focus groups, the small group forums, that was the next on the agenda, is to figure out who are we, what are those groups? Who are those people? Now, on Ivy's document that she had sent to us, that I will send back out, the public engagement one, folks that have something in common. So business owners, school employees, retired persons, younger residents were just a few of the examples that Ivy threw out for us.
How about agricultural?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Farming,
horse, you mean the horse?
the horse
Yeah, yeah.
industry,
I think that's actually separate than
I do.
I
agriculture.
did too.
Yes.
Their focus is separate. It's very
Yes.
different.
One person you might talk to, if anybody knows her, is, oh God, I'm missing her.
Heather.
Heather.
Mm.
Heather.
Heather
Oh,
White.
yeah, I know her very well. We support our horses.
Hey, well, somebody should talk to Heather White, I
Yeah.
think. Because she, I mean, she's busy, hasn't come to anything, because she's busy all the time. But I think she'd be an interesting person to talk to, and perhaps her daughters.
Well, and her
separately.
daughter just built a new house here in town, right on 45.
Yeah, she's not so involved with the business though.
No, that one's not.
No.
Mm-mm.
But still, a person, I mean, who chose to build a new house in Temple, probably worth talking to.
Yep, and a younger person.
So what about, who are already banned?
I think that's.
Oh,
That's a
good
great
point.
idea.
That's a really good idea.
You would probably know
Yeah,
those
yeah.
folks, right?
Both of them don't live in town. Matt, maybe.
Yeah. Which they would fall into multiple
That was
categories.
They don't.
It's under contract. Deb,
They were having me one, yeah, part tickets. But yeah, I could go. But I do have to go, you guys can keep going, you know.
Can't vote
we
on
can't
anything.
vote on anything.
Oh,
Do you have anything to vote on?
I don't think we have anything left to vote on,
Yes.
except for the next meeting.
except to adjourn. It's fine.
Oh, we could.
Is that okay? Yeah.
What's the last agenda? item?
We're just working on, right now, we're working on the focus groups.
Will
Um,
will you need to vote on anything?
No,
Yeah, you don't need to vote on it.
Oh,
no.
I'm so busy.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
Night.
Thanks for bringing us a form. So in addition, we had farming, the horse community, landlords.
Long-time residents, new residents. Mid-sized residents, I don't know. Young families,
Yeah. We said
and the,
Having people actually grew up.
well, Carter's husband Nate grew up
Nate.
there, Gretchen's, Whitcombs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Bruce
Yeah, there's a
Caldron.
few.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce, yeah.
plenty of the Conleys,
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Fisk,
yeah.
the Fisks. Yeah.
Willards, yeah.
Eric's still in town? Oh,
I think he is here. Yeah. Alan Fox.
Natives,
Neat.
native residents. Is that
Yeah, that's what I was looking.
okay?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what about people that are on boards and committees, and then somebody from the school too?
We have the school in our original list. Yep. the school employees.
We do have to be careful though, and I think this list is great. I'm just throwing this out as devil's advocate. We have a lot of groups listed here. We haven't had a lot of participation so far. If we're going to have all these focus groups, it's going to require a lot of management to set up each of these groups. And so we have to consider who's going to be setting them up, who's going to be there, how are we going to get these people to come? Are we going to have enough people at each of these? to warrant-
How do we coordinate their schedules?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a real challenge.
For what it's worth, the ones that we did in Dublin typically had 5 or 6 people at them. So I think I did all of them but one with one other member of the housing committee. So, I mean, and the way you get people there is you invite them for a particular time. And you know, but I would not anticipate that you're gonna get more than 5 or 6 people in any one of these. And so I think the management part of it is pretty straightforward.
So we're
I-
each managing it ourselves.
Well, I mean, I don't know where we are in the budget.
No, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, we like,
Yeah.
you pick a group that you're passionate about or a part of already and.
Group that you know some people, so you're a familiar face, and you know, we'll do it. And if we get a bunch of people that's, you know, in that cohort, then we'll try to find somebody else who could be there that day. But it's, again, it's not, and the way the focus groups work is they're sort of like the one-on-one interviews, in that you start with a pretty open-ended question, and then, you know, move from there, and then do the step cards as an exercise at the end, and maybe talk about what you see, you know.
Yeah, we'd also need some kind of moderator's guide to help the
Sure.
person who's leading the group stay on track to keep the
Right,
conversation
well,
going.
And someone who's
Yeah, I mean,
documenting.
typically that's me, but yeah, I mean, we can set up, you know, how we want to do that.
So the idea is you'll be present at all of these. I was thinking we would be doing them out in
I
our.
mean, to the extent that it's possible.
Yeah,
Is that included in the budget, in
Because-
what we're paying you already?
because we're gonna be paying her to write a lengthy report.
Oh, so that's not included in the, that's not
I
included in
work
the.
on an hourly basis. It's not I did
Not
not.
by item.
Oh, I thought the state gave us a certain amount of money for this,
They
and
did.
that's what we were limited
We're
to.
paying her hourly from that.
Yeah.
Right, but we have a certain total that we can.
Right, and that's what we're
Work
talking
Yeah,
about.
so I have to look at the recent dollars to see where we are.
Where the
because we're
what the
putting-
balance is.
Yeah, we're putting a chunk of money into the natural resources
Right.
review.
Moosewood.
Yeah, so that's gonna take, I think that was about 10.
Can you let us know what the starting number was and what the balance is now, so
Yeah,
we have
It
a
was
better
50,
sense?
it was 54,
54.
7, 1, or.
If you want to know, I'm
Yeah.
here somewhere, hang on.
Well, that'd be
It's on the
helpful
town
because
website too.
that
Yeah.
way we're not overstretching our dollars for what this has been budgeted
Yeah,
for.
and I think, I don't know, I've talked to a few towns that are doing this, but they're doing it differently in terms of what they're asking their consultants for deliverables. It just depends on what the committee is doing, what,
Right,
you know, like I'm doing the administrative stuff. Not every town is, and I'm not getting paid for it.
right.
Right,
Some
some
towns have a paid administrator
Or
or
they're paying
they're
us,
paying
yeah.
Ivy to do the administration, but
Right.
I'm doing it voluntarily, not getting paid.
and
So it depends on the town and, you know, what we need her for versus
Right,
what we have in-house.
yeah, because we just want to make sure we don't go over budget.
I'll make sure you don't
Me too.
go.
I want to make the best use of her
Yeah.
Well, and
and-
it runs out July.
July.
So everything we need to do has to be completed by July 31st.
And what you may find out is after we've done a couple together of the forums, you don't need me any further.
Right.
You know, we
Yeah.
put together a handout about this is how you do it, and then you're on your own.
I think if everyone's present, I hate for us to outnumber the guests. But
I
if-
wouldn't- Yeah.
But if
Which
the
is what has
committee,
happened for most of them.
I know, I was saying that tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But then it would be helpful for everyone to see it before we end up, like, I have no problem going out and doing one on my own, because I've done it, that kind of thing for so long,
Yeah.
but everyone's not
Yeah,
as comfortable.
And so one thing to do would be to maybe think about
Yeah.
pairing me up with people who haven't done that kind of work, and letting those of you who have done that kind of work do it on your own.
Yeah.
And again, I don't anticipate that you're gonna have giant turnouts, more than one or two people could manage on their own.
But I was being really optimistic, thinking when we invite, and we're talking about a small group, we're saying, we want to hear from, let's say, the business people in town. And so, I mean, off the top of our head, we know Amy and Mark Cabana, we know Steve Anderson, we know
We have a list of 80 people.
Russ
in there.
Huntley, we know, right? I mean, we have all of those businesses, Ted Sartell,
Without the agriculture.
he'd be under agriculture, yeah, he could be double full, but.
But yeah, but I don't, and I can see business people responding pretty well. If there's some other groups, I don't know how well those would
That might
respond.
not,
It's always, yeah, you just never know.
Yeah,
If it becomes a one-on-one, it becomes a one-on-one.
Yeah.
well,
yeah,
that's,
yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's just,
Yeah,
yeah, you get
Yeah.
what you get.
we start with the focus group and do a backup of a one-on-one if we can't get. Yeah,
Right.
because it's also coordinating their very busy schedules, because the folks that we're talking about, for the most part, are flat out, so.
Mhm.
Okay, so next meeting, we'll review the deck.
Yep.
The card decks again. Thank you, I'm glad you have enough that we can borrow them, that
Yeah.
everyone will have those.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, Grace sold me, I think, 30 decks, and I passed on maybe 5, so I have all the decks in the world, and they're amazingly useful. And I was talking to a friend the other day about it. He's gonna do some drawings for me and for a town, and he said, I said, I've got the top 10. I've got the top 10 hit list from the step cards. He said, great, scan those to me and I can use those as the basis of the drawings. So they're really useful for all kinds of things.
All right, and I guess the last thing was what we just talked about, the grant ends July 31st. But I think from Ivy, and from yourself, what, in addition to the one-on-ones and the forums, need to be done, obviously, besides us reviewing all of the documentation and coming up with recommendations?
Sure, so there's,
Question about profits. I thought, so let's just say we know what we want to recommend, which we're not there yet. Don't we, so this group is going to actually detail the zoning changes?
no,
We deliver our information to the planning board.
We present simply ideas.
your
Yeah,
recommendation.
we're just a
Yeah,
subcommittee of the planning board.
Research.
Okay.
From the work we've done, this is what we heard the community is open to, not open to at this time, and deliver it to the planning board. And then their work begins with figuring out
Actually,
what for 2025.
adopting what they think they want to do, put that into code.
Yeah,
we would propose.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
propose
Obviously.
Changes,
Yeah,
yes.
obviously,
But we're
that's-
still ultimately get the
Yeah.
finals. But we want to present things that we feel like there's support. We don't want to
Yeah,
present things that we know people are not interested in.
right.
So in terms of other deliverables, there are still some master plan chapters that need to be written. That's the future land use, the vision
Yeah.
statement, which probably won't take too long, I would think. The regulatory, the natural resources one, which is pretty far along, and I think, although he's gonna do a regulatory review, but that's a separate piece.
Is the
and-
future land use the conservation committee,
No,
or is that
That's
still through Matt,
that's Carol is still.
Carol?
Yeah,
Okay.
and there was the master plan implementation chapter.
Which we will do once we're done with all of this.
Right, which is
That
the
will
last.
That's the last thing, because what we do is we take everything we heard and everything we learned and we say, okay, these are the 10 things that we think you should think about. And here are some ways that you might accomplish them. And that's, we get to the planning board and, or you guys first and then the planning board, and they either take our advice or don't, or take it for later. I mean,
I mean, we could adopt your recommendations without implementing.
absolutely, yeah, and that's what we would
Everything.
yeah, that's what we would recommend you do.
Yeah.
Is that you adopt them as, we agree that these are things we should talk about.
You delivered what we asked you to deliver.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And, and we agree that these are things that, and we've actually done some of that.
Yeah.
We've already done some of that, but we'll do some more of that. Yeah, and Carol and I did a master plan for a town during the pandemic. I think maybe the first summer of the pandemic, I can't remember, but a while ago. And they're only this year, they're putting a couple of things on the warrant that came out of our implementation chapter. So it takes a while.
Okay, that's everything I had on the agenda. Is there anything else that? Any questions, comments, feedback?
I'm just curious, I know Dan left, but he seemed to have questions about what the planning board was presenting, so I didn't know if anyone else had any questions about what they were voting in March.
I've read them. Have you seen them? Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well,
We're good.
We'll answer questions.
Anybody have any questions? No. All right, so 8:05.
I think we don't need a
You
motion
want
to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
I.
Aye. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you all. This was helpful.
Oh,
Is she the only one who's on?
yes. Yep.
I still can't drive out of my driveway yet, so.
Oh, you had so much shoveling
Oh,
to
yeah.
do. No neighbor that can plow you?
Well, I mean, I'm part of the co-op, but he left so much snow on the driveway, and I have a little Prius, which has a pretty low, a low, what do you call it?
Low rider.
Thank you. So no, there's a lot of snow I still have to get out of the way, but I'm getting there. Maybe by tomorrow.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, take care.
Next, in 2 weeks, right? You're working.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Faster.
Is that right?
You don't have to.